all begins with the dreams. Breathe.
The veiled woman. God, why am I always on such low health?
Enter the mind of a High One? I hope you're joking. This was their last stand. They are afraid of us. I feel it. You've killed us! You've killed us all! You have just shown me the solution.
Okay, so my mind so confused. Okay, so now we are somewhere that the veiled woman's taken us. Okay. Really? A giant robot? What is this, Morrowind? We're gonna need to find the heart of Lorcan.
No, this is impossible.
What the? Who are you? What is this place?
Why are you here? Be gone, Phantom. Be gone and leave me to my slumber.
Phantom, what in blazes are you talking about? What's the meaning of this?
Then this isn't a dream. You really are here.
Who is that in there? There's someone in his chest.
The Prophet dies when the Emperor leaves him. This is the course of the game. It has always been so.
But the veiled woman then intervened.
How did you find this place? And why do you still exist?
The veiled woman, she healed me and opened the portal.
Her? But why? She does not have a mind. She does not have feelings. So why should she do this? But still you speak the truth. I can feel it. Then could it really be that the unlikeliest of all eventualities has become reality and brought you here?
The unlikeliest of all eventualities. Are you saying that my being here is coincidence?
Coincidence or caprice, I do not know. The veiled woman cannot be understood.
I have no idea what you're talking about. Who are you? What are you?
I am sorry. It's been too long since I've spoken to anyone. I have had many names. The Arcarians called me the God of Death. The Moonskin people, the Warden of Dreams. The Pyreans, the Demon of the Deep. For your people I am, or was, the Black Guardian.
Okay, so you're the Black Guardian then.
Pompous names, I know. However, I am none of these, neither god nor demon. I am only an eye, condemned to observe again and again.
You know the Pyreans. By the gods, how old are you?
As you measure time, older than your most daring chronicles go back, by far. I have seen them all, since our people fell. Every civilization, every cleansing, every turn of the cycle.
Then you somehow survived the cleansing of your civilization. Are you one of the ancient starlings?
What? No. The starlings came long after me.
Oh damn.
I was only a fool who wanted to save his own skin at any cost. I knew the cleansing would come. I had known it long before the Red Madness and the war started. But I also knew that fighting it as my people did, and as most do, was pointless. So I looked for another way to prevail. And I found it. What you see here is the result. The Goliath, as I liked to call it back then.
The Goliath? What exactly is that?
What is it? My self-dug grave. What it was meant to be was a body of steel, an immortal machine with which I planned to merge my consciousness. Only organic life could be reaped by the High Ones, and I thought that by becoming a machine, I could fool them. By the name of the sun, how brilliant I thought myself. I wanted to become a god, laughing in the face of time. But let me spare you my self-pity. What happened, happened.
So you plan to outlive your own people? To what point? Living in a dead world?
No. Joining the Goliath meant immortality. All I had to do was sleep and awaken once more when the cycle started again, and new life came forth.
But why would you have to stay awakened then?
This new life would not have been defenseless. I would have been a true god to them, one capable of protecting them from the High Ones. No imaginary figure like the Creator. No false gods like the Lightborn were, to speak in your language.
But your plan did work. You built this machine, became it, and survived the cleansing.
As the only one of my people? Yes. But it happened faster than it should have. And when the cleansing occurred, the Goliath was not yet finished. And as the Emperor unleashed the light, I had no choice but to complete the joining too early. A fatal error, as it turned out. I did survive, yes. But I am trapped inside this unfinished machine. And ever since then, all I can do is watch. Again and again.
What do you mean you can only watch? We are thousands of leagues into the deep here, aren't we?
Yes. But a part of the Goliath is the eye. It allows me to see what happens on the surface everywhere. Not as literal as you imagine, of course. I see schemes, feel emotions, similar to your gift, to the Echo. But they are enough to understand.
To be clear, you have been here since the High Ones devoured your people.
Yes. It was not how I planned it. The Goliath in its final form was meant to be divine, a synthesis of man and steel. But I overestimated myself, and I acted too quickly, driven by fear.
I mean, it looks somewhat done, I don't know, I mean. We haven't lost yet. Whether the Higher Ones triumph or not depends on what happens after your Amphion has blown up the beacon.
No, you do not understand. You are stumbling through the fog. even now that it is almost over. By themselves, the High Ones are not the problem. If we would just see them as they really are, they would become powerless.
Powerless?
Yes. It is hard to put into words. I myself do not know everything about the High Ones. Only that they are part of something we call the cycle. A civilization arises and blossoms, and then, always at the same stage of their development, the High Ones appear, and with them, the Red Madness. People start losing their minds, wars erupt, and chaos rules. Until 2 or 3 years later, the cleansing happens. The moment when the High Ones devour the collective consciousness, the gathered minds of this civilization, to give birth to a new one of their own. Despite all of this, nobody knows what drives them. Perhaps they act out of malice, out of an urge to survive, or perhaps they do not even have a will of their own, but are like a force of nature. But I do know one thing, as powerful as they might be, it is mankind who gives them that power. We make them into what they are, because what nobody understands is simply this. The High Ones feed on what humanity has the most of: their ego, greed, pride, fear, and their everlasting search for an enemy who was responsible for all their misery. It is those traits the High Ones make use of. These characteristics are what make us human, and by themselves, they are harmless. Only when we bury them, when we deny them, then they play into the High One's hands. So why is this, you ask? It is simple. The High Ones alone cannot make the cleansing happen. Only a human can. With the beacon, my knowledge about it is as limited as my knowledge about the cycle. It has existed since the beginning of time, and despite what you might now believe, the ancient writings about it are true. Lit by the ones who carry the Numenos, it can banish the High Ones once and for all. But it can also destroy us. Because what happens when it is lit without a core is far more than an explosion. It is the cleansing, the triumph of the High Ones. And even as we speak, a human, Tealor Orinthiol, has done it again. A bright light will appear from the heart of the machine and open a hole in the sky. And within hours, it will spread throughout the world, and they will all feel it. A fire that burns them from within. A white light which will break through their flesh. Do you understand now? The High Ones have no power. All they do is to feed on our weaknesses, manipulate us into bringing about our own destruction. It is we who forge the sword that kills us, we who lead them to their victory, even though the key to salvation has always been in our hands. But instead of realizing our folly, we make the same mistake. We repeat the same fate over and over, and only because we refuse to see the truth. Yes, the High Ones are our enemy, but who wants to hear that it is our ego, that dark voice within us, that empowers them? It is so ironic. The moment we would realize all this would be the moment it all came to an end. But we do not. They reap, we sow. Dreams, thoughts, visions, they are everywhere, but the principle is always the same. They throw a tainted seed into a fertile ground. The rest happens by itself.
My god, the plot twists. Plot twists are real. So, as he said, they don't have any power, but they act more like guides, in a way that they guide people by manipulating them and giving off fear into activating the beacon. Damn. So what you're saying is that without our assistance, the High Ones would be powerless. That the cleansing would never happen.
Just think for a moment. When did the High Ones ever do anything other than manipulate you? Did they ever physically influence any events? They incited the Naramis to march against you, and time and again confirmed the righteousness of both your causes. All they told you, all they showed you, was what you wanted to hear, and what you wanted to see. And yes, if you, Tealor Enderal, his order, and the Naramis had never acted, the cleansing would never have happened.
Holy crap. What? And there is really no reason for all this. I can't believe that.
Maybe there is, but if so, I do not know it. But the more turns of the cycle I witness, the more I get the impression that it is some kind of trial. A cosmic game, woven by powers we have not even come close to comprehending. Maybe this is just wishful thinking, to give all this pain a meaning, when it does not have one. Maybe the High Ones are simply a law of nature, a concept, and we give birth to them by believing there is such a thing as an ultimate external enemy in the first place. The eternal struggle with ourselves. Perhaps that is just part of what it means to exist.
Then that means Aranfield just initiated cleansing. He has signed the death warrant of all of humanity.
Like 1,000 others before him, the High Ones knew exactly what they had to do to get him to commit this last act of desperation. They played him with his weaknesses and fears, like a figure on a chessboard. And the saddest part is that until the very end, he will believe that he has done something good.
Because he won't accept failure no matter the price.
That was his greatest fear, yes. To be remembered as a failure, a broken man. That was the stream the High Ones manipulated him from the moment he died, after attempting to flee from his prison on Nehrim.
Wait, he's been dead? From the moment he died, what do you mean by that?
The real Aranfield, he is dead, Prophet. He is a fleshless one of the mightiest tools of the High Ones.
Oh my god.
Just as you are.
Of course, I died at the beginning. I am dead? Then what is this, an illusion? Oh, of course, it all makes sense.
I wish it were. The methods of how the High Ones influence us are plentiful, and the Red Madness and their ability to enter our dreams are not their only means. Their mightiest tool is the creation of projections, fleshless ones, or emissaries, as they are also called. If a person dies, and if this person has one last unfulfilled wish, a compulsion, then the High Ones have the power to create a projection of him, an immaterial image of the deceased, which thinks itself real and is perceived as such. What no one notices, not even the projection itself, are two things. Firstly, it is driven by this last unfulfilled desire. Secondly, it becomes an idealized version of its former self, almost tailor-made to free itself from the last compulsion, that ultimate scourge. The daughters of fishermen become warriors. Broken generals become charismatic and driven leaders who seem almost too determined to be real. You are one of these projections, as are all of the emissaries. You are a fleshless one, a spirit searching for liberation from something. I do not know your past before you came to this land, because before you became the prophet, you were insignificant. But what happened to you and your friend on that ship? You never survived it. You drowned in the Red Sea, and in that very moment, the High Ones entered your mind and made you into what you are today. And other than myself, the High Ones knew your compulsion, knew the desire that drove you. Whatever it was, it made you predictable, and it allowed them to play you, just as they played Orynthiel and Korak. Do you see it now? Every dream the High Ones sent you, every time they appeared to you, they all had but a single purpose: to feed your self-image, to push you in a certain direction. They wanted you to play the game for their purposes, and they succeeded. You read the echo of the future, as other prophets did before you. You helped Orynthiel reconstruct the beacon, and led him to the Numinos. When he saw that it would be taken away from him at the very last instant, his fear of failure led him into doing what he did.
Holy crap. Then this means I am responsible. I caused the cleansing.
You are not to blame, Prophet. You did what countless others did before you, and you did it because you thought it was the right thing to do. Only one thing is different. In all the time I have been here, never before did a projection realize its own nature. You were meant to dissolve like the rest of mankind. Yet, here you stand, and I tell you the truth. This was never meant to happen.
But what about the ancient starlings? They managed to flee the cycle, didn't they? How?
The starlings, in their time, were called the Yalam Rashi. And yes, they manipulated the game in their favor. Their goals were similar to mine when I created the Goliath. They were a small circle of highly intelligent craftsmen and mages. And just like myself, they did not think the cycle could be won by the beacon alone. So by unknown means, they fled into the sky and created something that protected their city from the cleansing.
But what happened to them? Are they really the ancestors of our starlings?
Yes, but knowledge about their history is sparse, since the Star City was almost beyond the reach of my eye. But I know that its first centuries were glorious. The Yalam Rashe lived in harmony, and their society was the pinnacle of all that mankind could be. With time, however, their population grew. They became too numerous for their small city, and so they invented their golden rules, which were supposed to control their growth. Having children was regulated now, and those who were found guilty of a crime were punished heavily. The worst sentence was being exiled. The convicted were robbed of their memories and sent back to Earth. This is where the starlings of your world come from, do you see? And this is why they all feel this longing to return to a far distant place in the stars. It is an ancestral memory.
That explains a lot. But what happened to them? Why was the city deserted?
I do not know. As I said, my knowledge about the starlings was always limited. All I do know is that one day they were gone. I could not feel them anymore. By that time, their society had become but a shadow of what it once was. But whether they destroyed themselves or left for someplace else, I will never find out.
Damn, this is a long conversation. It might have to go across 2 episodes at this rate.